Well, good morning. I'll call this meeting to order. Welcome to the fifth meeting of the Joint Interim Government Affairs Committee. Thank you for everyone for joining us today. And our research policy assistant is going to call the roll today. Ms. Anderson, go ahead when you're ready.
Senator Goycochea. Senator Neal.
Here.
Assemblywoman Brown May.
Here.
Assemblywoman Dickman.
Here.
Vice Chair Flores.
Present.
Assemblyman Matthews.
Here.
Assemblywoman Torres.
Here.
Chair Dondaraloop.
Here. Thank you very much. I believe we are all here, so please mark us all present. Before we get started today, I'd like to review a few of the housekeeping bits of information. Just a reminder that the meeting materials can be accessed on the committee's webpage on the Nevada Legislature website, and that anyone who would like to receive electronic notification of and access to the committee's agendas, minutes, and final report can do so by signing up on the legislature website. There will be a public comment period at the beginning of the meeting and at the end of the meeting, and public comment may be provided in 4 different ways, all of which are listed on the agenda. So our next agenda item is public comment. So to reach us by phone, please dial 669-900-6833. Then enter the meeting ID 819-1365-7795, and then press pound. Staff will time each speaker during public comment to ensure everyone is given a fair opportunity. You will be notified when you have 30 seconds remaining and when your time is up at the 3-minute mark. An additional opportunity to make public comment will be available at the end of the meeting. And so before we go to the phones, let's see if we have anyone in person in Carson City. Or Las Vegas.
Good morning. Chair Dondaraloop, Vice Chair Flores, and members Kent Irvin, K-E-N-T-E-R-V-I-N, State President of the Nevada Faculty Alliance, the independent association of faculty at Nevada's public colleges and universities. We work to empower our faculty to be fully engaged in our mission to help students succeed. Empowering faculty means the right to collectively bargain with the Nevada system of higher education, who is our employer. There are many advantages for collective bargaining in higher education. Research shows that faculty unionization promotes shared governance and better outcomes for students, including retention and completion. As of now, NSHE professional employees are the largest group of public employees in the state of Nevada who do not have collective bargaining rights in statute. Our classified employee colleagues gained collective bargaining rights with SB 135 in 2019. And while the Board of Regents has allowed limited collective bargaining for faculty, that means that we are negotiating with management who both determine and interpret the rules. A collective bargaining statute for NSHE professionals would give access to the State Employees Management Relations Board, EMRB, for oversight of bargaining unit elections and resolution of disputes in a prompt manner. Further, collective bargaining agreements can promote and restore integrity in NSHE governance and management. In the 2021 session, SB 373 was introduced to provide collective bargaining rights for NSHE professional employees. SB 373 passed with a bipartisan vote in the Senate Government Affairs Committee. Unfortunately, it did not move further in the legislative process, partly because of fiscal notes from state agencies outside of NSHE. I'm here today to inform you that the Nevada Faculty Alliance is prepared to offer a new version of SB 373 with amendments that remove any significant fiscal notes. We asked the Joint Interim Standing Committee on Government Affairs to consider sponsoring this bill draft through your bill draft request allocation. We would be happy to meet with you to explain the bill and the advantages of collective bargaining rights in statute for professional employees of NSHE. Thank you very much.
And thank you. Next caller, I believe we don't have anybody else in the room, so we'll go to the calls. Do we have anybody on the phone broadcasting?
Thank you, Chair. Your public line is currently open and working. However, there are no callers at this time.
All right, thank you very much. So with that, we will go to agenda item number 3, which is the approval of minutes from the meeting held on May 10th. The draft minutes were made available to committee members and the public last week. Do I have a motion to approve?
Assemblyman Flores, so moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Senator Neal. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, say aye. Or raise
Aye.
your hand.
Aye.
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 All those against, say nay. Motion passes. Thank you very much. And with that, we will move on to agenda item number 4. And today we're going to be receiving an update on the implementation of Assembly Bill 184 from last session. As you may recall, AB 184 temporarily created the Office of Small Business Advocacy in the Office of the Lieutenant Governor. So we will welcome our presenters, and when you're ready, please go ahead.
Michael Cullen, Chief of Staff to Lieutenant Governor Kano Burkhead. For the record, good morning, Chair Dundero Lute, Vice Chair Flores, and all members of the Joint Interim Standing Committee on Government Affairs. As I said, I'm Chief of Staff to the Lieutenant Governor. And today I am joined by Sunny Benua, who is our Director of the Office of Small Business Advocacy, Melissa Saavedra, who is our Program Manager for the office, and Daniel Marlowe is also on the line, who is the Administrator for Administrative Services Division. If you can go to the next slide, Melissa. As you are all aware, the Office of Small Business Advocacy was created via AB 184, last legislative session, the 81st session. It was sponsored by Speaker Frierson and Majority Leader Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson. Assembly Bill 184 was a major priority for both Governor Sisolak and then Lieutenant Governor Kate Marshall. According to the U.S. Small Business Administration, in 2021, over 297,000 small businesses were in operation in Nevada, which represented over 99% of all businesses in the state and employed over 500,000 people, or about 43% of our state's workforce. According to an op-ed published by Speaker Frierson and Lieutenant Governor Marshall in the Nevada Indy, titled "Nevada is Small Business," they said, Nevada small businesses have it tough. Only half of new startups survive their first 5 years in business, even in normal times. Larger, more established firms have easier access to banks and investors, while most small businesses lack this access to financial resources. Even if they are more flexible, small firms are more vulnerable to unexpected economic downturns. And they continued, the pandemic has made these problems even more acute. The federal government funded programs to help businesses weather the storm, but many small businesses have been unable to take advantage of them, either because they didn't know they qualify or they didn't know how to gain access. Even with CARES Act support, over 35% of Nevada's small businesses have closed their doors this past year. With that being said, AB 184 passed with broad support from stakeholders, including but not limited to GOAD, Department of Business and Industry, LVGEA, the Las Vegas Global Economic Alliance, EDON, the Vegas Chamber, the Henderson Chamber, the Reno Sparks Chamber, the African Chamber, the Latin Chamber, Urban Chamber, and the Nevada Outdoor Business Coalition. So Assembly Bill 184 in Section 9 provides 4 actions that OSBA shall undertake. First, refer small business owners with inquiries regarding starting, operating, or winding down their small businesses to the appropriate resources. 2, work with small businesses and local governments to facilitate interactions between small businesses and local government, including resolving issues, as well as identifying and recommending improvements to processes. 3, assist state agencies with the regulatory authority over small businesses to ensure small businesses can provide comments and feedback to processes and outreach. And 4, coordinate with other state agencies to facilitate interactions between small businesses and those state agencies, develop processes to ensure small businesses receive timely responses regarding their inquiries, resolve regulatory and enforcement issues, and identify and recommend efficient and responsive procedures, facilitate participation in events and meetings, and identify causes of delays and inefficiencies, and finally make recommendations on resolving issues. Next slide, Melissa, please. Thank you. The purpose of OSBA is really to serve as an advocate for small businesses within state government by serving as a centralized hub, connecting businesses to resources, and working to resolve challenges and barriers, ensuring the long-term growth and resiliency of Nevada's small businesses and industry. GOED Director Michael Brown often says that there are a lot of agencies with oversight over small business in state government, GOED being one of them. And one thing our purpose here in OSBA is to serve as that conductor of the orchestra and direct small business owners to the appropriate resources. Section 10 of Assembly Bill 184 provides that OSBA shall undertake its mission by completing these following goals: receiving, reviewing, and attempting to resolve any complaints from small businesses, compiling and analyzing data on complaints from small businesses, assisting small businesses understand their rights and responsibilities under state law and regulations, providing information to the public, government agencies, and the legislature regarding problems and concerns facing small businesses, and making recommendations, analyzing and monitoring the development and implementation of laws, regulations, and policies regarding small businesses, and making recommendations on their improvement. And lastly, disseminating information concerning OSBA's existence and availability to provide assistance to small businesses. As you all know, Lieutenant Governor Burkhead was appointed on December 16th, 2021 by Governor Steve Sisolak. And it was an immediate priority for us to get this office up and running. We conducted a wide search for our team and received numerous excellent applications for both our director and program manager roles. We were honored to bring on Sunny Benuya, who will be speaking shortly as director. Sunny brings a wealth of knowledge to the Office of Small Business Advocacy from his prior role as president of the Las Vegas Asian Chamber. After Sunny's appointment by the Lieutenant Governor, we prioritized hiring a program manager with experience and expertise in Northern Nevada, as well as bilingual Spanish abilities. And we're fortunate enough to bring on Melissa Saavedra, who has incredible knowledge of the small business ecosystem in Northern Nevada, and previously was working with Northern Nevada Business Weekly. And now, speaking of Director Benuya, I am going to turn it over to him.
Sunny Benuya, for the record, Director of the OSBA. Good morning, Madam Chair Dandera Loop and Vice Chair Flores, and members of the Joint Interim Finance Committee. The OSBA officially launched in February 14, a week after I started as director. We worked on getting our intranet quorum set up as one of the ways for us to engage small business owners. The IQ system officially started at the end of February. However, we did immediately started our outreach and client services. So we started with listening sessions with our partner agencies such as Business and Industry and GOED. They heavily advocated for this office, so it was important for the OSBA to understand their vision on how we partner with them. We met with different state agencies such as SBA, SBDC, Nevada Co-op, you name it, and explained the role of the office and how we could better partner as well. Then we started listening sessions with stakeholders and business ecosystem partners, such as the Chamber of Commerce's and advocacy agencies, explain our role and get a better understanding of how we could at least assist each other as well. We successfully helped with Business Resource Fair in the West Side in partnership with the business industry. We have another fair in the East Side coming up this week. And we have two other ones that we are planning for the West Side and Northern Nevada. These fairs are designed to promote entrepreneurship and introduce resources to both aspiring and current business owners. We have also engaged our marketing firm to help us spread the word and promote the Office of Small Business Advocacy. This will be done through, of course, websites, social media, development of our own office identity. I did mention that we have started our outreach to the small business community. We have helped advocate for over 60 small business owners, issues ranging from funding resources to licensing to Medicaid approvals, help small business owners understand their rights and responsibilities. I think it's probably easier if I give you a few examples of some of the things that we have done as an office. We were able to help a 20-plus-year-old candy shop obtain much needed funding through some of our resources that's out there in the West Side. We helped a group of adult daycare owners with expediting their approval request for their residents, resulting in 26 immediate approvals. Set up a meeting with a group of care home owners in HCQC with their issues in licensing delays, which right now is reaching over a year. And now we're looking into improving and possibly streamlining that process. We help businesses with various licensing boards due to delay. M-Bank is one example, and the mortgage licensing, or WMT in the NTA. Help new entrepreneurs with resources for starting their businesses by connecting them with SBDC or HEQC, learning about processes or their requirements that they're needed, sometimes even translation services for them. We advocated for business owners to RTC Washoe for some bus pools. Transportation seems to be a huge issue in the Northern Nevada territory. Healthcare companies for licensing and processes to change, and even pedestrians in Chinatown to help business clients. We started to compile some of these issues which we are encountering in preparation for the next legislative session. So what's the future for the OSBA? What we're hoping for? With the help of our marketing consultant, we would like to continue to increase the presence of the OSBA in the business ecosystem, continue statewide listening sessions as each city area have different needs, create a better delivery system of resource information, continue to partner with stakeholders to keep on improving and streamlining our partnership, hopefully develop a liaison with each department that can help us find solutions. And we would like to continue our funding, hopefully get a bit more so we can hire more staff. Thank you very much.
And with that being said, our website right there, if you go to the Lieutenant Governor's website, any small businesses who wish to gain assistance from Director Vanuya and Melissa can go to our website. There's a form on there that will then populate Director Vanuya's help side on Internet Quorum to assist small businesses. So we encourage any small business owners to reach out to our office, and would love everyone on this committee's help letting their stakeholders and constituents know about our existence. Thank you, Chair Luke.
Thank you very much. And I see several questions from our members. So I'm going to start with Vice Chair Flores. I think I saw your hand go up first. I'm not sure, but go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to very quickly say thank you to our director and Michael and our Lieutenant Governor. I know I had some small businesses who had issues, and particularly they mentioned one of them, they were having an issue with non-emergency transportation services to get a license, and they were incredibly helpful. So I just wanted to publicly say thank you to them again. The only question that I have is, I know that the Lieutenant Governor is really invested in helping all businesses, and obviously with our directors' wide experience, I understand that they want to help all communities. I just wanted to maybe dive deeper into how you're helping businesses that I think in the past, unfortunately, felt that they had issues because maybe there was language barriers, or businesses who are providing a service that maybe is not a traditional business model or a traditional restaurant model, whatever you want to call it. Because I know there's a lot of, the entrepreneur spirit is very big in immigrant migrant communities, but because it's a different approach, it takes a different lens to really understand it. And if you could talk a little bit about how you've been able to really cater to some of these untraditional businesses and help them out directly.
For the record, Sunny Vanuya again, Director of the OSBA. Thank you so much, Vice Chair Flores. basically the way I'm able to help with that is really through my experience and my connection with the community in my past role. There's a lot of different resources, not only within the state agencies, but outside the state agencies as well, that I know that we can tap on and use, especially when it comes to translation services and explaining to a lot of these folks that you're talking about exactly what's available for them resource-wise and some of their rights as business owners and responsibilities as business owners as well. Translation services, you tapped on it, is a huge issue that we have. There's a lot of different small business owners that don't understand the processes. So getting somebody in their community that can help me translate, somebody that they can trust is a huge factor. It's a big thing for us. So it's really just about connecting them to the right people, sometimes outside the state agencies, to be able to help us give them a better understanding of what's needed for them.
And thank you for that. I know that having all of you there is a huge asset to the state. So thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. And we'll go to Senator Neal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So my questions are, and I will say, I was probably one of the people who was wondering, how this bill was going to work in real life. I have looked at the website, and thank you for including Nevada Grow as one of the resources out there moving the needle for businesses. But I was wondering more so, like, how are you advocating at the federal level in terms of like business assistance and impediment? Because two things that I'm hearing. So a lot of people don't feel they're ready to pay back their the loans, the federal loans, the EIDL loans that they received. Two, that if you noticed recently, there was this destruction of tax records, and now businesses are getting all these letters saying that they haven't filed. And there's a need for, I guess, the federal to state kind of advocacy to go on to navigate and narrate what is actually happening so that they know what to do and how to handle it. Because they are getting notices saying that they haven't paid, and now they're going back to their accountants and saying, I know I filed my taxes, I have my paper copy right here, right? But I'm getting this thing from the IRS. Is this something you guys have heard about or engaging in?
Good morning, Sunny Vinuya again, Director of OSBA for the record. Thank you so much. We have not encountered this particular issue at the moment. So Senator Neal, I haven't received any issues yet as far as the taxes are concerned. Now, in light though of the federal, having that relationship, for example, with the EIDL loans, I have a very good connection with the SBA here and the regional director. So it's something that we can definitely advocate for them with the issues that we have or what's available for our business owners here if they're not ready to pay back the EIDL loan at this moment, and see if there's something that can be done. As far as the tax the tax issue is concerned, so the moment it comes up, I'll start my research now so I can be prepared when we get those issues in. Thank you.
It was a CNBC story, but I also got like a text message, and then I had to look it up, and because I was just like, but there's nothing on the IRS website that discusses it, but it appears to be a real thing that's going on, and just maybe you should just be aware of it. And Madam Chair, can I have a second follow-up just really quick?
Please go ahead.
And also, I see, GOED and BNI and Secretary of State listed, but I really want to know how are you guys coordinating? Like, give me the real life examples of how the coordination is working in real life between the three agencies.
Sure. There's, for the record, Sandy Binu again, Director of Office of Small Business Advocacy. So there's several examples that I can give you. The business fair is one. I want to bring that up because that includes everybody. So of course, when we do have a business fair, we want to make sure that everybody there is included. So we've thrown out invites to a lot of the different state agencies out there that's available. So this coming Friday, we're having one at the East Side, and almost everybody's represented there that can come. So that's a minor example, but a real life example of how it works. As far as resources are concerned, the first one that I can give you is a SBDC story. There was a would-be business owner who did not know how to start a business, did not know who to go to or who to call, but they were referred to me by a chamber, and I immediately referred them to SBDC. But as I dug more on what they needed, they also needed some guidance on the requirements for opening a childcare. So I was also able to connect them to HCQC, and they were able to give them the exact requirements that's needed. And then now SBDC is helping them or guiding them towards taking care of their business plan and going through the proper steps and going through that roadmap that the BI did. So like Director Brown has mentioned, I'm truly more of like a conductor and just getting the right resources in front of the people and depending on what they need.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Senator.
And we'll go to Assemblywoman Torres, and then we'll go to Senator Gocochea.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mr. Cullen and Mr. Vinuya, for your presentation today. It was exciting to learn a little bit more about the office and some of the work that you've been dealing with. And I know that the Lieutenant Governor's office has done a phenomenal job with outreach, making sure that the community is more aware that they're there to help. And you mentioned during the presentation today that there were some legislative recommendations. So I was just wondering, like, what you could talk about, like what recommendations or what issues maybe you've seen come before you the most that you're looking for solutions for now.
Sure.
So Michael Cullen, for the record, Chief of Staff to Lieutenant Governor Burkhead, we will be making more of a formal, recommendation to Legislative Council eventually. That being said, I'll let Director Vinuya kind of dive into what he's seen so far.
Sure. Director Sunny Vinuya, Director of the OSBA, for the record. Thank you, Assemblywoman Torres. Just to give you a couple of examples, I think the number one, the most requests that we're getting are licensing delays in different areas. So for example, the first one that we had, as Vice Chair Flores mentioned, at the NTA, for example, there was a delay in approval of ground transportation licensing for a couple of different businesses that came to me, and the delay is about a year. So when you think about it, a year delay, this business is paying for trucks that they own already for a year, insurance and utilities for their office, and zero income. So it's really taking a lot of burden for them. So they needed help moving that along. So that's one issue that I see. Why the delay? Why so long? So right now we're currently working on that. The other delay that we see is in county fire marshal. That seems to be so on the care home owners. It's taking over a year to get their license. So same thing, they're paying for mortgage or lease for that property, insurance and utilities for over a year with zero income. That takes a huge toll. They cannot have any clients in there. And the biggest delay that we see is a 6-month backlog on the inspection for a fire marshal. And the other inspections cannot be done until that is completed. So we're trying to see on how we can streamline that process and work on that to get that better. Medicaid delays, not delay, but process that we saw according to their rules and regulations. Medicaid, for example, should be examining patients face-to-face. However, because of the pandemic, they've been examining the patients by phone, telehealth. Now, it's a little bit tricky because a lot of these clients that are examining are for adult daycare needs. So these are 65 and above patients. They really need to be seen in person instead of over the phone. I'm also looking at, so there's, since that change, there was a huge decline in the number of approvals. So that's just a preview of some of the things that we're seeing out there. And funding is another popular one. At least half of our requests have been more funding for small businesses. So There you go, Assemblywoman.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that information. Senator Gocochea, please go ahead. I don't think we can hear you.
I think I've got you.
There you are.
Madam Chair.
I can hear you now.
No, thank you. I was just, I appreciate the opportunity. Okay, thank you. I was wondering if maybe there would be the ability for you to put together a short white paper on this, just exactly what you're dealing with. Now, typically represent a lot more of the rurals. You know, your program just, you know, it's hard for us. I don't even know they don't know where to go to. I don't know where to send them. Even your contacts, we have the same issues. It's interesting you talk about the fire marshal. Well, in most of the rural communities, it's again the state fire marshal. And I don't have to tell you, they're struggling as well to meet the needs. So I was just curious if there was, if you could put together a white paper, short white paper for maybe some of us on the committee, so I could, in an email form, so I can get it out to, when I get a question, say, hey, these are the people that can help you best. This is how you access them, and this is what they can help you with, and this typically are the programs. I realize you're in the north and the rurals. They're just not reaching out to you. I don't think they know you're available, and how do we get there, and what can you help them with?
Thank you,
Madam Chair.
Michael Cullen, for the record. Thank you for that, Senator Gocochea. I think getting the word out about our existence is something that we're continually working on, and we would love to work on that white paper and send it over to all the members of this committee. We also want to actually get out to some of our rural counties and rural chambers and talk to some of the small business owners out there, maybe later this summer. We have no hard plans yet, but that is a goal of ours, just so you know, to actually physically get out there and meet with small business owners in our rural communities. And we would love to partner with you on that.
Thank you. I look forward to it, and thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Senator Gocochea. I think next was Assemblywoman Brown May. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you. I appreciate the presentation. Thank you, gentlemen, very much for the great information. It's nice to see you here, and I appreciate the good work that's been done out of your office in just the last few months. My question is relative to data. I'm curious to know if you have the number of inquiries that have come through that office to date. And then do you have a waiting list currently? Are there businesses that you're currently not able to meet their needs? As you've talked about the desire to expand this office, I'm just curious to know what is currently the data load and the average time that you're spending per client.
Sunny Benuya, for the record, Director of OSBA. Thank you so much, Assemblywoman Brown May. Good to see you as well. As far as the data that's concerned, we started our outreach to the businesses before our intranet quorum was actually up and running. So we do have over 60. However, there's a few more that I actually have to upload physically on my own to get their names in there. A lot of them came in through emails because of my connections with the chambers. They were just passing my name along, which is very grateful, because that's exactly what we would like. So I will, as soon as we get that updated, I will send that data to you as well. What we're seeing is we definitely need help. That's why I'm hoping that we could get a little bit more funding in the future so we can hire the third person. There's definitely a need for it because we see it as they come in. Yes, there is a waiting list. I can only get to certain businesses, but it also depends on how fast I can set up a meeting with that department or with that board that's available. So wait times are varying. Some of them are easier than others. I'll just make a few phone calls and we can get it done, but there's some that require more research and require more meetings with different people. So it's important to really have connections in those areas and a liaison that can really work with our office. I hope I answered that question. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I would just recommend that maybe you consider adding some of those details relative to the white paper that has been requested by the senator. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional questions from the committee? Not seeing any. I'll just add there, first of all, yes, our gratitude for getting this office up and running so quickly. I think it's so important right now during this time. So thank you very much for doing that. I love the suggestion of the white paper for us to all process and to know what's happening, not only in our major cities, but in our rurals, and know how people can get a hold of you. The other thing that I think, and I sort of heard an answer someplace out there, but one of the things that I've heard is people don't know if they need to contact you. They have a problem, or they know that their business is kind of up and running, but they could use a little help. Is there some kind of criteria or benchmark that they can think about when they are looking for help?
For the record, Sandy Binuya again, the Director of Office of Small Business Advocacy. Chair Dondera-Loop, at this point, really, anybody could just have them call me, and it's a lot easier for me to determine how I can help them. My role is really to connect them to the right people. So if I'm not the right person to help them, I can definitely move them to that person. So I don't want them to, how do you call that, categorize themselves out of the help that I can probably give them. So it's better for everybody just give me a call, and then we can decipher it from there.
Thank you. That helps a lot. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, ma'am.
All right. Any additional questions from the committee? All right. Not seeing any. Thank you both for being here with us. Once again, thank you for all you're doing for our small businesses. They are the heart of our towns and cities. So thank you very much. And I'm sure we'll all be in touch. Thank you.
Thank you.
So moving right along, we will move to agenda item number 5. We're going to receive a presentation regarding the costs libraries must pay to obtain those digital materials. This issue was brought to our attention by Ms. Julie Balderson Knight. She's chair of the Carson City Library Board of Trustees. Good morning, Ms. Knight, and please go ahead and share your screen when you are ready.
Thank you very much. And I'll be, Madam Chair, and I'll be leaning on broadcast services support for getting those slides up. Thank you again. As you said, thank you for the introduction. My name is Julie Balderson Knight. I serve as the chair of the Carson City Library Board of Trustees. Public library boards in Nevada are governing boards, and typical responsibilities include establishing the mission and vision for the library, determining the policies that are implemented to govern the library, hiring and evaluating the director of the library, and overseeing the general management of the library, which includes some budget review as well. Board trustee positions are voluntary and appointed by municipal elected officials, in my case, the Carson City Board of Supervisors. Now, while I am from Carson City, the issue I'm raising for your consideration today is actually a concern that is shared across the state. Las Vegas, Clark County Library District, the North Las Vegas Library District, Washoe County, the Nevada Library Association have all shared their concern. And so you might find that your local library is experiencing this same issue. So on this, moving on. Oh, you've already moved on to the next slide. Perfect. So I'd like to start off by setting the scene and offering up some background on how library users access electronic materials through our library. The Carson City Library uses a platform called Overdrive to create and maintain its digital book collection. And now the end user component of the Overdrive platform is an app called Libby. The Libby app is free and available across all the major device operating systems. The user downloads the app, inputs their library card number, and is then allowed to access ebooks and audiobooks from their library's collection. Users can borrow, renew, or place holds on electronic library materials through the app. When the material is checked out, the title is available on the user's playlist within the app. When the term is up, the title is automatically removed from the user's playlist. But there are some limitations. Electronic copies does not mean infinite copies. So these materials are limited in the same way that print materials are. In Carson City, we have about 5,100 ebook titles in our collection, and on average, we have 4 people per title who've placed a hold and are waiting their turn to access the title in the digital collection. If I can move on to the next slide, please. Despite those limitations, there are significant advantages for libraries to invest in developing their electronic collections. This modality enables libraries to serve folks with limited transportation, or folks whose eyesight requires larger fonts or audio formats. And also, of course, the 24-hour access to browse and check out or place holds has certainly expanded access. And as you might imagine, we have seen an increase in demand for electronic materials that has been sped up by COVID and gas prices now. But we do not anticipate the demand to drop off anytime soon, since this point of access is just becoming increasingly ubiquitous. So it's of the utmost importance that libraries have sustainable business practices in developing their electronic collections. And that brings me to my next slide, talking about the business end of all this. There are only a handful of publishing companies, so-called the Big Five, publishers which control the market for the vast majority of best-selling titles, which are the titles that are in high demand at public libraries. Over the past decade, there has been a dramatic shift in how these publishers do business when it comes to electronic materials for libraries. We've seen a move to a model where electronic titles can no longer be purchased for perpetual access, but instead must be licensed. Given the extremely durable nature of electronic materials, where there are no physical pages that wear out and no reason to repurchase materials simply for the sake of replacing worn out editions, there is some logic to this, assuming the costs of electronic materials are equitable, which brings me to my next slide. This graph shows the work of a public librarian back east, Jenny Rothschild, who spent a year tracking what was on the bestseller list, how much those books cost, and specifically how much her library would spend to buy those titles in a paper book or an ebook, and how much those same books, paper and digital, would cost for a regular person or average consumer. Her results are comparable to the situation we're facing in Carson City, and it's not just Carson City. In 2019, electronic materials accounted for 20% of total circulation across the state, across Nevada's public libraries, and yet 30% more than all the print materials combined. Now, her data covers just 1 year, but the trend isn't new. In fact, a 2018 survey showed the average price per copy of electronic materials has tripled in 9 years. And at the same time, license models have become much more restrictive. And what I mean by that is that it's not just the prices going up. We're seeing publishers enact 2-month embargoes on all new ebook titles, meaning when a title comes out as an ebook, it's not available for a library to even license at triple the cost for 2 months. In some cases, an embargo on a title can last an entire year. So all that to say, it is absolutely critical that access to and use of electronic materials equitably balances the rights and privileges of readers and authors and publishers. And as you can see, maintaining electronic collections is becoming unsustainable. And my hope is that we can find a solution before it's too late. If we can move on to my next slide, this is my last slide. So far, there are a handful of other states actively working to address this disparity, and I hope Nevada will join the movement. Right now, there are two strategies that have surfaced. The first being addressing the issue through contracting rules. This could entail setting some clear statutory definitions for, publisher, ebook, audiobook, reasonable terms, deceptive practices, just for example. And then directing that libraries may not engage in agreements which are not reasonable, something like that. As a trustee, that would be a very handy tool in my tool belt when we review our budgets. Now, the other strategy some states are floating is around regulating business practices of publishers. Something along the lines of requiring that if a publisher sells a product to the public, that the same product must be made available to a public library at the same cost. And frankly, I'm not sure that I can point to any one state that has come up with the best model or even the best model language so far. And perhaps there's another angle to consider that hasn't been revealed yet. I honestly don't know. I don't know what this might be. And I'm hoping that perhaps this is something that you all might consider or have thoughts or guidance that you could share when it comes to finding a solution to this. I am all ears. This is a big problem, but I don't think it's unsolvable. And I just would like to close by, again, thanking you for your time and for your attention, and shout out to Broadcast Services for your help advancing my slides as well. And with that, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you very much. Do we have, let me get so I can see all of you. Do we have questions? I see Assemblywoman Torres. Please go ahead.
Thank you, and thank you, Chair, and thank you for the presentation. This is an issue that's really near and dear to my heart as an English and reading teacher, and I'm just wondering if there's been any conversation with the school districts, because I know that there's similar issues right now with accessing like e-libraries for our schools and with online materials now, like that relicensing. We've seen those fees continue to go up, and I think post-COVID, as more and more schools have been dependent on online materials, and as we have more one-to-one with Chromebooks and access to digital within our schools, I've seen that there's this big shift, but we're having a lot of issues with like the pricing just going up. So programs like Actively Learn have gone up. These e-libraries that schools maintain are going up. So I'm just wondering if there's a greater conversation that can be had between both government agencies, if that's already been had, because I think that they kind of work hand in hand and it's the exact same issue.
Julie Balderson Knight for the record. Thank you so much. I have not had any of those types of conversations. I'm so glad that you raised this issue. And I'm on the one hand heartened to hear that someone else is also struggling this way, but also sad that we have to face this challenge. But I will absolutely pick that up and run with it and reach out to our education partners. And maybe there is some solution there in terms of some kind of collective bargain, some kind of joint contract or what have you. So thank you for that suggestion.
Thank you. Yes, as a former school librarian who purchased books and then went to CDs and then went to digital, I appreciate that. My suspicion is, unfortunately, the school district does their RFPs separate from the county RFPs. Mm-hmm. And so while the conversation could be had, I kind of feel like, it's the old never the two shall meet, because separate entities with separate funding structures, but that would be a good conversation to have. Senator Neal, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for putting this on the agenda, Madam Chair. I got excited. I was like, what? Okay, so I have a couple of questions. So for the licensing fees, how much typically are the licensing fees?
Julie Balderson Knight for the record. We're looking at about triple what we're paying. And the thing is here, it's per title. And so what libraries have been doing across the state is we've just had to make kind of judgment calls in our collections development with our pot of money for what we're going to purchase in terms of materials. Some libraries like Carson City, I think Washoe County's done the same thing where they've kind of split their dollar amount in two. And so they spend about half of their budget for collection development on print materials and about the other half on electronic materials. Now, as I said in my presentation, the dollars just do not go nearly as far when it comes to purchasing electronic materials. That's not the only way to do it. Some libraries across the state have opted to not purchase any new print materials and have put whatever they have in collection development budget 100% toward electronic materials. Other libraries have done the inverse, where they've doubled down on print materials and decided that electronic materials are just too expensive and they're not spending money on them. So it really just depends, but we are looking per title about triple the cost of what it would be for print.
Okay, so Madam Chair, can I ask another follow-up? Because
Please go ahead.
I'm super interested, number one, in regulating the market, and then the other piece that you talked about. So in my digital goods journey, which has been going on since 2019, I did notice that there was an equity in terms of the digital good versus the tangible, right? And that there needed to be a conversation about parity, right, around pricing, which then puts us in it puts us in another world of, you know, it's another set of statutes. I'll just say that. But what I wanted to know is, if you were to grow your electronic collection, what would be the universe that you would even have access to? Because what I heard was they are monopolizing the how the titles actually come out. And so they're controlling the market in a way where, you know, you only get a bite at the apple for these 2 months, or you have to wait. So they build up this interest. So then basically you're paying more. So even if you grew the collection, would you then would you have access to 20,000? Or would that then be staggered because of the publisher's behavior?
And thank you for the question. I'm Julie Balderson for the record. It's the latter, unfortunately. Even if we do spend all that we can and grow that electronic collections, these terms are, in my judgment, unreasonable. But that is what we have to deal with, like you said, without some type of regulation in the market. I would say that we would be getting about more of the same, meaning that embargoed access would still be there, and the high cost would still be there as well.
Okay. And so on the contracting side, you're thinking statutorily, if we put in on the procurement side, well, really it's price constraint.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you're asking for. That's what I'm hearing. Which puts us in, right? That's exactly what I heard. So you want the state procurement office to engage in developing a price constraint type of legislation? Is that what you're thinking? And then because there's a lot to vet in that conversation when you start doing price constraint, because then it puts us in like Sherman Trust Act and all of these other things that we need to consider about, like, how far can the state engage in controlling a market, right? There's some leeway, but it has to be pitched in a certain public policy, I guess, purpose, if that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. So Julie Balderson for the record. When it comes to procurement and the contracting piece, you've hit it right on the head there. It really would come down to having some type of definition of what is reasonable, what is a deceptive practice, and saying, hey, look, library, you are not allowed to contract with folks who engage in these types of practices, that sort of thing. Now, if you were to go the other way, though, back to the market regulation piece, we do have one case example right now with Maryland, who attempted that. They passed the law pretty much attempting to regulate the market that said, look, if you, publisher, are going to be selling an electronic material to the public at a cost, you need to offer that same material to public libraries at the same cost. That law ended up going to court. The publishers argued that the way the language in the law was written forced publishers to sell where they didn't necessarily have to sell. And ultimately, while the court said that they agreed with the spirit of the law, they didn't necessarily agree with the way it was worded. And so they ruled on the side of the publishers on that one. So that's a needle to be threaded. So yeah, I mean, in terms of where I would probably want to go, me personally, I think even though it's an undertaking, it still might be easier to focus on the contracting, the procurement end of things. If we do want to reach into the market regulation piece, I would be happy to see that bold action. I'm not necessarily confident that we wouldn't meet the same demise ultimately that Maryland did.
Well, I appreciate that. If you could share that case, that would be super helpful. Madam Chair, if this is something that you plan on researching and going deep, I'm all in.
Okay. Good to know. Good to know we have a cheerleader for the cause. Additional questions from the committee? If I'm not seeing you, holler out, but I don't think I see any. So, Ms. Boulderson, did I miss it? Can you give us like an example of I don't know, if I'm gonna get a cookbook, if I'm gonna get a summer read, if I'm gonna get something that's on the shelves now at Barnes and Noble, the library, and it might even be something that I would be looking for anywhere else. Can you give us, like, is one $40 and one $10, or is one, can you give us just an example like that?
Sure. I would say the average book prices, you have a suggested retail price, which comes from the publishers. A print material, like you're saying, something new coming out, a bestseller, you're looking at about $24 is what the suggested retail price would be. And if you wanted to purchase that on like Amazon, it'd be a little bit cheaper, about $16. What a public library would pay for that would be around about the same, couple dollars, maybe $14 or so. Now, if that same bestseller as an ebook, if you were to purchase that on Amazon, you'd be looking at about $12. The library would be looking at $45. If you wanted that same best-selling title in an audiobook format, it's more expensive on both ends. So on Amazon, you'd be looking about $27, but the library would be looking at $69. And those are averages, of course, but
okay, sure. Yeah. And just for I don't know that this matters a lot, but just for FYI information, I guess the books that you buy in a store, in a Barnes and Noble, might have a different binding than a library binding, because a library binding always has a heavier binding because of course more people use it. That's been my experience as a school person. But the disparity between the ebook, like on buying the ebook for my Kindle versus the library buying it, is quite large. So I'm not sure where the difference is, but because I can see it in a book, but I'm confused about it in okay, any additional questions? from anyone?
Madam Chair, I do have
Yes,
one.
ma'am. Please go ahead.
And I'm going to control my excitement. But one thing I think, is it Balderson?
In Balderson Knight, yes.
Something you should look at is, when the Attorney General Ford did the price gouging during the price gouging statute during the COVID, the shutdown.
Oh.
There might be language in there that I think may assist, that I think you should take a look at, because he touched on price constraints that may have been derived from the shutdown, which may have created this relationship that they're having right now with digital goods and them overpricing it, because it's like a extreme markup when you see the chart that you put. But I think that you should pull that and you should look at it.
Thank you so much. I will absolutely do that. I'm just so glad that you got me on the agenda here to get these great ideas. I will absolutely follow up.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Great idea, Senator. All right, any additional questions? This topic is just really interesting because so many people are now using ebooks, and it's even within our schools, because we have online schools. So we have different things like that, hybrids and all kinds of things going on. So absolutely.
Madam Chair?
All right. With that being said, I hear just a little bit background noise, so I'm not sure.
I have a question,
Please,
Jill.
go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As you were asking your question about comparing the price for the book for your Kindle versus the library, I was wondering, could this have something to do with the fact that, so you might share your book on your Kindle with a friend maybe, or maybe two, but a library version is going to go to possibly hundreds of people. So the publisher loses money on sales on these books. Could that be the reason for the difference in the price?
Well, I'll let Ms. Balderson answer, but I do know that when you check out from a library, when your time's up, it goes away on your Kindle. Like, you can't just keep it forever. So
right, so it goes to the next person and the next person, and so the publisher is potentially losing sales because, on you buying it for your Kindle, because I can get it at the library for free, I might have to wait for it. But
go ahead, Ms. Balderson Knight.
Thank you very much. There's a couple pieces to consider there. Thank you for the question. It's interesting. First of all, there have been some studies that would suggest that accessing materials at a public library for some folks actually functions as a test drive, and folks tend to purchase the title after they've read it at the library. If they liked it so much, they'll go ahead and purchase it. But the other piece, though, too, is you make an excellent point that the life cycle of an electronic material absolutely eclipses a print material. So what you might see with print materials is that they wear out. So a library is going to purchase the material. We're going to circulate it through the users. Eventually, the spine's going to wear out. The pages are going to wear out. And we're going to buy that book again. But you're not going to see that electronically. So that's why you've seen a shift to where we don't actually purchase the electronic title, we essentially lease it. So through licensing, we'll see where we pay for it once, and then it expires, so then we'll pay for it again. Usually, I think, it could be a year, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year kind of lease. So the solve for that has been to switch from purchasing to licensing. So given that the licensing has kind of replaced that repurchasing model that you saw with print, I would say that publishers can stay in business that way. The cost there, when it was print, they were all about comparable. So given that we are repurchasing the very, very high price of what has to inevitably be repurchased has become a concern.
Thank you. I was just curious if that could be a reason.
Very good points and good question. Thank you, Assemblywoman. Additional questions? Any follow-up, Assemblywoman Torres, on the schools?
No, I hope that that's a consideration. I'm happy to work on this. I think Senator Neal's already excited about it, and I'm excited about it too, because it's definitely an issue that's impacting our library system, but I know it's impacting our schools as well. And so if we can make one bill that addresses both issues, I think that would be helpful for all of us.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Well, seeing no more questions, Ms. Balderson Knight, thank you very much for the information. I'm sure that for sure we know where you work. So if we have additional things to follow up with, we will make sure and reach out.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. All right. Well, next, our agenda item number 6 is our second round of public comment. So if you're listening online and would like to provide public comment, please call 669-900-6833 and enter the meeting ID 819-1365-7795 and then press pound. Please remember to clearly state and spell your name and limit the comments to 3 minutes. Staff will be timing each speaker so that we can give everyone a fair opportunity. And with that, we'll open public comment. And is there anyone in Carson City or Las Vegas? Okay, not seeing anyone or hearing anyone. We will go to the phones. Broadcasting, go ahead when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. If you'd like to provide public comment at this time, please press *9 to take your place in the queue. Caller 653, you're unmuted and may proceed.
Oh, thank you. Good morning, Madam Chair and Vice Chair. This is Dora Martinez. I represent the Nevada Disability Peer Action Coalition. Appreciate you listening to my public comment. I just want to say I really do support the library. With the pandemic going on, my son had to look for a David Copperfield, and the electronic version, we couldn't find it, the nearest one near us, the library near us, so we went online and we found it in Spanish Springs, and he had it and for his GT class. So I really do appreciate this if it becomes a bill and regulate the prices. I love our libraries, and I appreciate all of you, and have a great week, and thank you.
Thank you very much. And next caller, please.
Thank you, Chair. Your public line is open and working. However, there are no more callers at this time.
Okay, we will wait just for a minute and make sure that we don't have anybody waiting in the wings. Broadcasting, do we still not have any callers?
That is correct, Chair. Thank you.
All righty. I appreciate it. And are there any comments from the members before we will adjourn?
I'd just like to say, Madam Chair, great meeting.
Thank you. Short and sweet. Short and sweet. And that was certainly the virtual part of this was we knew it would be a short. Senator Gocochea, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And just as pertaining to the white paper from the Small Business Advocacy Group, in that, if they could kind of put in that white paper, just their definition of what a small business is as well, and you know, the more information I have, the better it's going to be for me, and I assume that's the other members as well.
Thank you very much. I will have staff reach out to them and make sure that they include that in the white paper. Thank you very much. Any additional comments from the committee?
Thank you, and good meeting, Madam Chair.
Thank you. If there's any additional comments and I don't see you, please reach out. Not seeing any. We're currently looking to schedule a final meeting in August. Staff will reach out to check on availability for a possible meeting date. And that concludes our business for today. And with no more comments, we are adjourned.